thought it'd be fun to do a little behind the scenes thing, kind of show you what goes into the podcast. It's late Sunday morning here, almost lunchtime, getting ready to do the podcast, which will air 1 a.m. on Monday. I'll probably record that. I don't know. We'll wait for any last big news to come in, maybe 10 o'clock or so, and then record that quick before I go to bed. A little later than sometimes I might like to do it. But anyway, what goes into creating the podcast? Well, the first thing I need is something to talk about. That's usually helpful, right? I mean, at this point, everything's set up. Everything's kind of preset in terms of where we're at here in the studio. And I don't know if maybe I'll try and this is the camera on the computer right here that I record into. So I don't have the ability to swing it around a whole lot and show you what's going on. But it's just, this is a very simple recording booth. Not a very exciting place to be unless you're addicted to a microphone. It's kind of dark. You get all this foam to keep the sound dampened and things like that. I love it. I spend a lot of time down here, but I'm an outside guy too. So every once in a while, I'm like, I got to get out of here and just get some sun. In which case, it's just a short couple of steps out the door here, which is really phenomenal for me. Anyway, going into setting up the podcast, the booth, everything, the recording, I pretty much all have it down, to blow out a podcast. It's all preset, ready to rock and roll. The key is coming up with something to talk about. And, one of the things that I've been kicking around is possibly entertaining the idea of helping people learn to speak, learn to present better. Especially in this digital age that we're in, I myself have had to kind of find ways to tune what I was normally doing to adjust for that. And it's been good for me. It's giving me something additional in my toolkit. But anyway, if you need to speak or make a presentation, here's a big tip for you, all right? The biggest tip you get. Message trumps delivery every day of the week. Content is king. If you have something interesting, meaningful, or useful to say, or entertaining as well, you can attract a lot of attention with that. And I don't care what kind of microphone you have. I don't care if you record it into a cardboard box like I did the very first podcast, which was terrible from a content and sound perspective. But a double loser on that one. No, I'm kidding. It was a lot of fun. It was the start of the podcast, and I'll always look back on it favorably. Anyway, there's your big tip. Have something stinking interesting to say. There's so many parrots out there. I was watching a buddy of mine. This is very useful. I'm not being critical, but they have these, you can basically take a bunch of photographs, dump it into this slideshow generator, and then you can paste text in there, and the computer's voice, whatever you call it, the artificial voice, will make this video for this voiceover video and have text on the screen. Very useful for marketing. And just people just copying and pasting stuff that's already all over the place and creating these little wastes of time is what it really amounts to. Not for the person generating, they're trying to get people's interest on a certain thing. I try to remind myself that the average person's IQ isn't 150. And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying, especially when you're communicating a message, you got to think you get a lot of people that have different abilities to think and reason and all these different things. So what do we want to talk about tonight? This is really what you want to hear. You want to hear this inside scoop, right? On how my mind ticks. Well, I'm in a particularly difficult situation right now, which is why I got started on this a little bit early here at 11 a.m. in the morning for a podcast that's not airing tonight. Usually I've got a ton of stuff. This is kind of my notebook that I carry around, and it's a Moleskine 8x11. I'm actually switching to something a little smaller to make sure that I have it on me at all times. And I have another tool. I'll show you if we have a minute here. But anyway, point being, usually I've got a bunch of notes already written down, and today there really isn't much. And I'll just start with this. What's happening this is an emotional undertaking to do a podcast like this. And I don't know, if everybody experiences that. For me, I take it seriously. I find it very profound what we're doing, the medium, the way it impacts people. And it's a bit emotional at the same time. And I would say to you that right now, what are my emotions saying? I'm very, very concerned, like seriously concerned about what's going on in this country. Not only am I concerned about the events, I'm concerned about the very laissez-faire response of most people. And I'm super, super concerned about this broad censorship of the freaking president. If they can censor him, do you think that they're not going to censor you? Look at what happened. I mean, the deep inside government conspired with the media. You could use different words to say that. Whatever you want. They tag teamed, ganged up on the president, and shut down the president of the United States because they feel differently. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit more. It just has me, very concerned about the future of the country, the direction of the country. So here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to run down a couple of the headlines, which, let me see if I can do this here. This fancy new setup we have here. All right. Well, there's a little delay for you. No, that's not what I wanted. And that's definitely not what I wanted. Well, listen, this is part of the process. All right, here we go. So, look at this. This is on Drudge Report. Japan suicides exceed COVID deaths. That's a beautiful headline for me in terms of content. Now I'm speaking on the creator side, because I've been talking about this from not day one, but early on with the whole corona thing. Is anybody considering the consequences? Lockdown-weary Americans begin pandemic changed holiday season. Black Friday traffic in stores is down 52%. Online shopping hits a record. A lot of interesting things I can say about this. I'm not going to spoil all that here. BonginoReport.com. These are just two great sources I like to grab. And Apple News, I used to, but anymore you got to have a subscription for anything. This is another thing I was thinking about throwing out there. What was the tip I made earlier? If you have to give a talk about something, have something unique, interesting, helpful, useful, how to, whatever, interesting story people might not have heard. That's a great way to communicate a message. Use a story to do it. Well, here's another thing maybe I'll talk about in the future. Where do you get the news? There is no single reliable source, I hate to tell you. You just got to look and read a lot. But two of the big aggregator sites are Drudge Report. They're pushing this Japan suicides exceed COVID deaths. I'll tell you one thing, if you're a news junkie like me, the biggest thing that jumps out at me, I'm going on longer than this. I'm going to cut this off here in a second, guys. I don't want to consume this with this. Just want to give you a little glimpse of what goes on back here. But I do have something I want to get to, so let me move quickly. Interesting flip. And totally, here's the big thing that I find in the mind game that gets played with the population. Drudge Report and all the other headlines have been pushing, virus, people dying. Everybody's going to die. Lockdown, wear your mask. Lockdown harder, wear your mask more. And then all of a sudden they come up with this article that's completely non-congruent. It's a mental game. Bongino Report, conspiracy theory side. This is Bongino. Not taking issue with that. I'm just calling it like I see it. He's pushing this headline. Where did it all come from? Biden received $132 million in dark money donations. We'll see. So the other thing I'll do for inspiration is sometimes I'll flip to Twitter, because it kind of gives me, these are people that follow me. Are they still counting ballots? Yeah, we're all still waiting. Kamala. So maybe we'll get into some of that. Here's what I want to point out. Here's going to be the big thing that I'm going to push on this podcast. I want to talk about what's happening at the UN and why it's being allowed to happen. This is the UN website, just to be clear, the Division of Sustainable Development Goals, DSDG, in the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Just to go to show you that this isn't conspiracy theory. Listen to this. I'll give you a little glimpse, and then I'm going to talk about it on the podcast if you want to hear more. We, the heads of state and government and high representatives, meeting at the United Nations headquarters in New York, from 25 to 27 September 2015, right before Trump, as the organization celebrates its 17th and began today on a new global sustainable development goals. On behalf of the peoples we service, we have adopted a historic decision on a comprehensive, far-reaching, and people-centered set of universal and transformative goals and targets. I'm going to stop there because I could go on for this forever. I don't know about you. I didn't ask the god-dang UN to transform my life. This is where I got to stop because I want to keep it cool. But this is where the emotion comes in. Our country's under attack right now, and the information's right here. You want to hear more about it? Monday's podcast. What podcast number is that going to be? You don't want to miss podcast 894 if you want to hear what I'm going to talk about. I'll be happy to see you there, and I'd also be happy if you shared the podcast with your friends, family. If you have any, I don't know. Nobody talks to me anymore. Make it a great day. I'll see you on the podcast.
Warning, this podcast includes unapologetic logic and reason and may not be suitable for all audiences. In a world full of nonsense, he's been called the voice of uncommon common sense. He sees the abnormal that many find normal. Author and award-winning speaker, he is Chris